So for people who are absent. So my job today, I'm going to get you hyped up for tournaments because I taught you all about the types of debate that you can do. But there are things that you need to know about tournaments. So the idea here is just that you realize how much fun they are. There's fame, there's glory, there's bragging rights, there's all sorts of great stuff. We're going to start out with a little video of famous people who used to be debaters.
Speech and debate?
Speech and debate has really transformed me and given me a voice. And I know that having a voice leads to change and action.
I've had fun, I've cried, I've learned, I've laughed. I've had just incredible time in my 6 years of being in this program.
I was able to make everlasting friends that I know people for a long time.
Speech and debate is where voices come to life.
Continuing to move forward while being uncomfortable, that is not weakness. That is the epitome of courage.
Where friendships are born.
National champions in Sandra Silver's duo interpretation.
Where memories are made.
We're the Almost Party Government Accountability. We are very proud to affirm. Thank you all.
Where dreams come true.
$1,000 scholarship from Western Kentucky University.
Where kids take that next step to their future.
2015 National Student of the Year.
Who will be the next movie star?
Problem we're trying to
Brad
solve
Pitt was a debater.
is there are rich teams and there are poor.
Rock star.
So was Springsteen.
TV star.
Everybody wants to fulfill
Everybody
the
knows that.
highest, truest expression of yourself.
World leader.
Expect to use in a language they understand.
President.
That we shall never negotiate out of fear, and we shall never fear to negotiate.
So I just think it's kind of a cool perspective. One of the things that makes me excited about tournaments is just realizing how much it can matter
What
for you
is
the rest
speech?
of your life. So I'm just going to show you just really quick. One of the things the National Speech and Debate Association does, among many, is they just kind of keep track of all the people who used to be debaters to inspire you. These were all people who started out like you. They knew nothing about debate. So I'm just going to slowly scroll through this list. Some of them you'll recognize, like Black Panther. Some of these are more my age, but I'm sure you guys will recognize them. Of course, we already know about Josh Gad. Colin Jost is on SNL. Idina Menzel is the voice of Elsa in Frozen. Ant-Man was a debater. His, if you ever want to watch it, you can find his performance at Nationals on YouTube. It's really funny. Let's see, we've got more SNL people. Of course, Oprah. Obviously, like a bunch of people from debate go on to be in government. So a lot of these people you probably won't recognize. Elizabeth Warren did run for president, I think, at the last round of that. We've got a couple of Supreme Court justices. So the people who are in the highest court in the land started out as debaters. Samuel Alito, a bunch of other, people in law, but also Sonia Sotomayor is another Supreme Court justice. So it's just kind of cool. So but I think that's just one piece of many things that are cool about debate tournaments. So I'm gonna go pretty quick here so you don't get bored. I'm basically trying to sell you on the idea that you should get hyped. So one of the things about tournaments, I like comparing it to sports. So how many of you play a sport that you have to go to practice after school? Yeah. And imagine all that hard work at practice, right? You go to soccer practice day after day after day, or football, or ballet, or whatever, right? And you work crazy hard. No one would ever be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to practice but never go to the game, right? Why would I kill myself off at practice but not actually go to the actual thing I was practicing for? It's the same thing in debate. That's why I've talked about that before, that people want to come to tournaments, otherwise all the hard work is kind of not totally worth it. This, for me, is one of my personal things that I love about debate, because I remember when I was your age and I was in school, adults treated me like an idiot because I was a kid, right? You guys know that. That happens to you all the time. It's not fair. You are wildly capable students, and it's not fair you get treated that way, but the cool thing about tournaments is that's not the case. You get to say something and have something to say and actually be taken serious. You get the chance to be heard, which I think is a really meaningful experience. Debate tournaments are also just really fun. So these pictures are kind of old. I should probably update them one day. This is the kid who gave me the hot dog. This was like 10 years ago. But they really are just, they're this weird combination of really hard work and stress and pressure, but also interrupted with lots of moments of just fun. So again, we get to hang out with the whole team. There's a lot of in-between times, and that's obviously something to look forward to. Some people are motivated by trophies. I am. I absolutely, like for example, this year they started giving teachers these pins for how many years you've been here, and other teachers were like, yay, a pin, and I was like, I want all the pins. Every 5 years they give you another one. But same with trophies. Your wins are my wins. My hard work pays off in your hard work. And so some people are really motivated by the idea of actually having a physical reminder of all that hard work paying off. So this is called the Sweepstakes Trophy. It happens in April. So most of you won't come to that tournament. Some of you will, but I always just kind of mention it because for some people, it's part of their decision to try and take debate again in second semester, which is technically something you can do. Some kids will also just come to the tournaments without being in debate second semester, but they give this to the team who had the most overall wins. If I'm being totally honest, it's really fun. It's awesome. The whole team gets to rush the stage. You get a gigantic trophy that's like this tall if it was sitting on the desk. It's super tall. And it's awesome because you get to kind of, lord it over everybody else. But it also is a numbers game. So Albion always kind of gets messed with the team trophy because we have way more debaters first semester than we do second semester, and it just kind of makes it impossible. So even though we're really good, we just don't have enough numbers. So it's fun, but it's not the end-all be-all. The biggest deal is kids who win at state. State matters much more than championships. But I will tell you, because it's just part of the weird history of debate, there's a funny story that goes along with the team trophy. So I told you yesterday, remember how I told you about my friend Mr. Simmons, who was the Mount Jordan coach? We had gone on a London study abroad. We were friends. Do you remember this? Nod at me so I know you're alive. Okay, it's ringing a bell. Okay, so when Mr. Simmons, this was 10 years ago, but when he was the Mount Jordan coach, his team kept beating Albion for the first couple of years, which I was not gonna stand for. There's no way. I'm too competitive. So we worked crazy hard. And I told Mr. Simmons that this happened. I had the weirdest dream one day where he had beat us a couple years in a row, but in my dream, Albion had finally won. And for some reason, even though I'm not a violent person in real life, in my dream, I had taken the giant trophy, we were on stage, and I started beating Mr. Simmons with it, which again is super weird because I am not a violent person. But then, because we were friends in real life, I thought he would probably get a kick out of that. So I told him about it. But then he told his team about it. Then they used it as motivation of are we gonna let Mrs. Coates beat Mr. Simmons with the giant trophy? No! And then it became this huge rivalry. And then, because he's such a good, funny guy, Mr. Simmons, when we did win and we finally took it back from him, he pretended to let me beat him in front of his whole team because he's just a great sport. He pretended to fall down on the stage and I pretended to hit him with it, which is very weird. But anyways, it's just, again, it's part of the fun kind of history. What up?
I need to borrow a Chromebook.
Are you just borrowing it for first period? Okay. So I'm gonna hunt you down if you don't get it back, right? Okay. So first period, right, with Mastering Middle School ends by 8:56. So I want it back by 8:55, okay? Cool. Okay, let's go on to the next fun part. So we've already talked about Mr. Jensen. And again, yeah, feel free to get it out of your system if you need to. But for me, it's motivating to see your competition. That it's not just hypothetical. Sweet. And it's actually, you can see him staring me in the face. So I also, that reminds me, I should probably put up a picture of Mr. West. Teacher fail. But like I said, they've got 2 people coaching, doing the job that I do just all by myself. They are good, and they know it, you guys. That's the annoying part. And they absolutely strut around the tournament like Eastmont won the championship tournament last year. But guess what? We did better than them at state. And so they like to conveniently just ignore that fact. So we can do it, you guys. But I hope that you will let this motivate. Now, I briefly mentioned Mr. Pulsifer. Get it out of your system to me too. No? Okay. I mentioned Mr. Pulsifer, but I think it's also helpful for you to see, same deal, because we go to trainings all the time at the district. Mr. Pulsifer is super chill and just a really cool guy in real life. He's super nice, he's really funny. One of my favorite things about Mr. Pulsifer, when we have our early morning debate meetings, he'll show up with a gigantic breakfast burrito and a huge energy drink. Like, that's his thing that he does every single time. We make fun of him for it. And he really is such a nice person. But I want to destroy his team. I want to take them down. They have actually, last year they didn't do as well as they did in the past. And I think it's because Mr. Pulsifer was really stressed. He now has a couple of kids. And the poor guy never sleeps anymore because he has a bunch of little kids in his house. But anyways, they still do decent, but I don't know, it just kind of changes every year. Some years you'll have a team where you just get lucky, you just get really good, hardworking kids who are super motivated, and some years your team just doesn't care as much, so you can't force people to care, right? Okay, let's move on. So, like we said, you have to come to both, and here's how I grade it, and I will tell you this several times, but I want you to try and really listen here, because it might be part of your decision for which event you're going to do. So if you do policy or Lincoln Douglas, you'll do 3 different debates. To get an A for your, debate 2, a little bit quieter, to get an A for your 300-point assessment, which you earn at the tournament, you have to win 1 of 3 rounds. And for some kids, they get scared when they hear that. But guys, I'm telling you, if you follow the steps that I'm going to have you follow, you will win at least 1 of your rounds. Most Albion debaters win 2 of their 3 rounds. And then some of the very lucky ones win all 3. So 1 is the bare minimum. If you follow the steps, you will be able to do that, okay? If you do oratory, here's how it's graded. At the first tournament, oratory has to have a 6-minute speech. If it's not 6 minutes, I take away assessment points. If it's not memorized, I take away assessment points, because that's part of the challenge, okay? Extemp, because it's very different in Extemp, you have to give at least a 3-minute speech, but remember, it's not pre-written at all. And Extemp has to use 3 pieces of evidence in their speech. And what I get after the tournament, every judge fills out a piece of paper that gives me all this feedback. So I read through all the judges' feedback, and I can tell if all these things happened or not. So again, there's usually only ever 1 kid per class who doesn't get the 300-point assessments, but I want you to know before we even start doing tournament prep, which we're going to start next week, that's how it gets graded. Does anybody have questions about that? How you're going to get graded? Okay. So this is real. I took this screenshot last night. So lots of you have been in my class before. So how many of you remember taking the end of the quarter or end of the semester survey? Do you remember that, where I asked you, like, did you like this? Did you like this? Blah, 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 right? So this was from last year's debaters. And I asked them, in general, do you feel like the way Mrs. Coates had you prepare for the tournament forced you to actually be ready? I did not force them this, but 100% of them, 32 of them, said, yeah, the way you've made us get ready actually made me be ready. So it's part of the reason why you shouldn't be nervous. You're gonna be nervous anyways. Like, let's just be real, right? You're gonna absolutely be nervous anyways. But there's just lots of things that I have worked out the kinks in my system. We used to do tournaments, getting ready for tournaments in a wildly different way. It actually wasn't as successful. But the pandemic kind of forced me to change how I do stuff, and we started scoring a lot better since then. So that's kind of the cool thing. You're left with a much more effective system. Okay, so first of all, I really love this picture. These are some of our debaters last year. And it's just one of the things I talk about because some kids are curious. But way back in 2017, I had a kid named Blake. And Blake, we were talking about, like, do you have to dress up for tournaments? Which the answer is no. And Blake raised his hand when we were having this discussion and said, do I have to wear pants? I was like, what? Why? Would you? And it turns out he apparently had a bet with his friends that he was going to wear shorts for an entire year, including all winter. So he was very concerned, like, did he have to break his bet? But the idea really with this slide is you just set the tone, right? how serious are you taking it? Part of that is you show it with how you dressed. So it's something to think about. If you know that you've outgrown your suit, or you know that you don't have like really nice clothes, maybe start thinking about it so that you don't get to October 26th and you're like, oh snap, I should have been thinking about that. She told me way back on September 1st. I had tons of time and now it's too late. So that's why I talk about it right now. Stop me if you have questions, guys. So I briefly mentioned this, but I want to make sure it's really in your brain. So trick question, debate 1. Do you have to compete at October's tournament? Will you have to compete against debate 2 kids? No. And it's just one of the ways we make it more fair, because it's a lot of stress. They know a lot more what they're doing. They have a lot more experience. So you only have to go against newbies if you want. If you want to challenge yourself, awesome. You could compete as what's called varsity. Those are the more experienced. Novice are the less experienced. So hopefully that helps with your nerves too. What it really means, guys, you're going to be competing against somebody else who is just as nervous as you. And also is like, what am I getting into? Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit of a difference. So I love talking about our debate parties, guys. They're crazy epic. How many of you have been in my class before when we had a party? And some of the parties are more epic than others. How many of you, keep your hand raised if you would agree it was a pretty epic party? Again, some of them are more epic than others. So debate though, I get a little bit of a budget from the district, and I save part of that budget just for first period, because it's kind of hard to have a party in first period. So basically, we play hard. We work hard, but we play hard, right? That's the phrase. Work hard, play hard. There was one party, I always tell the story, that they brought Sprite and Pixie Sticks. There was so much sugar, and then they dared me to drink it, and that was like in 5th period, and then I showed up in 6th period, was like, let's do some stuff, guys. I was so hyper. It was really fun though. Okay. Also, one of the cool things about debate is a lot of kids who end up doing well consistently, they start high school kind of being a little minor celebrity. This really has happened, that kids from other middle schools who are then in high school together, you get recognized, like, oh my gosh, that's that one kid who totally killed everybody else in extent, right? Or there's that one policy kid who always won first place. It happens. You can start by being a little famous just because of debate. For everybody, there's different reasons to get motivated. For some kids, this is a big deal. How many of you agree that sometimes in school it feels like, when am I ever going to use this? Right? So, I know I've said it before, but debate is real life. It absolutely, the skills transfer. Being able to be on a team, working hard, knowing how to dig deep and push through even if you don't think you can do anymore. Learning how to do good research, learning how to speak in front of a crowd. All of those things you will totally keep using your whole life long. So even if you don't win, you guys, you really are just becoming a better human. You will leave being like, yeah, I've got skills, man. And that's awesome. This is just something that I feel strongly about, but it's also something I have no control over as a teacher. So I cannot force you to care. I can bribe you. I can try and get you to, I can, hopefully to give you experiences and make you realize that it is something you should care about. But debate will matter so much more if you choose to care. You'll see it happen. There will be some kids who they have an attitude of like, oh my gosh, I have to do more of this, blah, 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 right? I have to do it. Ugh. It's like pulling teeth. Those kids are going to have a horrible experience. But the kids who choose to be like, yeah, I'm going to give this my all because it's going to be a good experience even if I lose, the kids who choose that attitude, the tournaments are fantastic, class is meaningful, they're not bored, time moves quickly, it makes a huge difference. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Will you bribe me in money?
If only. If only I won the lottery and I could bribe all of you in money and not in candy. Okay, so this is a little kid video. I'm not showing it because I'm saying that you're little kids, because obviously you're not. However, the idea is important. So, yeah. How many of you did Class Dojo in elementary? Yeah. Okay.
Chapter 1. Mojo discovers a secret about his brain. A secret that will change the way he looks at the world forever. Our story begins with Mojo, a friendly monster who loved school, especially math. Until one day, when something terrible happened. The math problems got harder. Nothing made sense anymore. Had a devastating thought. He just wasn't smart enough for school. It seemed the only reasonable thing to do was pack his things and leave forever. Just then, he heard his friend Katie laughing. "Mojo, you can't just give up," she said. "I have no choice, Katie," said Mojo. "You're either born smart or you're not. And I realize today that I'm not." "Mojo, that's not how it works," said Katie. "Anyone can be smart. You just have to work at it." "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard," said Mojo. "It's not ridiculous, it's science," said Katie. "Neuroscientists studied the brain for years and discovered an incredible secret, that your brain is like a muscle. When you try challenging things, like those hard math problems, you're giving your brain the exercise it needs to get stronger, which makes you smarter." "Ooh, is that really true?" said Mojo. "Of course," said Katie. "It's like how when you were a baby, you didn't know how to talk. But you kept trying, exercising your brain, until one day, you could." Mojo couldn't believe what he was hearing. If your brain was really like a muscle, did that mean anyone could become smarter? Even him? He turned to ask Katie, but just then, she had to be off to her next class. But maybe you can answer Mojo's question. What do you think? Can Mojo become smarter? What
Okay,
about you?
so I'm going to tell you a real story. It's a little bit embarrassing, but this idea that you can continually exercise your brain and get better is true. That most things when you first start them out, it's not perfect, right? So when I was in 8th grade, I gave up because I didn't like math, because it was hard. It didn't come naturally to me, and I gave up and I failed 8th grade math. Super embarrassing. And it was a huge learning experience for me. I had to realize, okay, so just because you're not good at it immediately doesn't mean you should give up. And so I slowly figured out that I actually am good at math. I just have to work a little bit harder than everybody else. And I just had to decide to stick with it. So I, after that point, I was great at every math class after that point. But it came down to me realizing it's okay if it's not just natural, that you just gotta stick with it. Debate 2, how many of you would agree, and it's okay if you don't feel like being that honest, but how many of you would agree that when you first started debating last year, it was kind of hot garbage myths? Okay, yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, and that's just it's gonna happen to you too. When you do your first debate, you're gonna think, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? This is horrendous. And then you're gonna just slowly keep practicing, little bit, and you're gonna get to the point where you are much more talented. But for most kids, they're not just automatically good. It takes some time. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do before we have Mastery Middle School is I had debate 2, try and convince you to join their team. Now, debate 2, if you don't see your video, it's because you did not follow directions and you didn't submit it correctly. So if you want me to fix it before 5th period, we could. But before we watch some of these videos, yes.
For the second tournament,
Yeah.
before or after?
So it is right before the semester change. It's after winter break for sure, but it's before the semester change. Yeah.
What would happen if you're not in the baby one next semester, but you still go to the group?
Yeah. So a lot of kids do that. It's absolutely allowed, but it's if you want to. Yeah. Also, some kids though, they end up going and getting a schedule change so they can repeat debate so that they can keep coming to the tournaments. Other questions before we watch some of these? Okay. So again, the purpose of me showing you some of these is so that you can hopefully, if you haven't already, which hopefully you sort of kind of have, is to just get some insider perspective. So this is Will from 5th period, and he is a policy debater, but he does policy by himself, which is twice as hard because usually you have a partner. So here's what he has to say.
The first thing I'm going to say in this video Choose policy! Policy gives real world knowledge about hardcore debating and politics. Last year's topic was about AI and cybersecurity, which was actually a lot more interesting than it sounds. Policy is the only event in which you can have a partner who can help you. Policy also has the highest number of varsity, including me, who can aid you in your quest for a trophy along with your partner. If I were you, I would not choose a speech event because you don't even get a trophy. Whereas in policy and LD, you get trophies if you place, but if you choose LD and get like 8 to 10th place, there's a chance you don't even get a trophy at all because there's a shortage of trophies, and this has happened in the past. They just give them to policy. And you can also get a medal along with your trophy in policy from speaking points, which is basically saying that you got an oratory award with a policy award, so you're superior than oratory. Again,
so we'll stop here. But guys, what is Will obviously motivated by? Trophies, yeah. But that doesn't work for everybody. But Will had special circumstances in policy because he did twice the work by himself. He got to double fist trophies, guys. They gave him big old, they really were. They were pretty good size. And so because usually they give both policy partners a trophy, he didn't have a partner, so he got 2. And guess what? He did that twice. So Will, it's great. He's very motivated by trophies. Okay, we got Hank and Grayson for LD. Okay.
If you choose argument to a medium of difficulty, and you debate by yourself, so you don't have to deal with a partner, like in policy, LD is better than oratory and extent because there is no memorizing required. You pre-write your entire speech and pre-write a lot of your arguments, so it won't be as difficult.
Some possible downsides of LD are that if you are not confident enough or too timid, you won't do well. Another downside is that you will need to be able to argue on the line. You can't let your opponents take advantage of you or else you can't win. So as varsity debate or debate 2, we will help you grow and learn, and so you can win. We will also help you write your speech, and we will give you some of our proponents to help you. And we will bring some.
Wait, did you guys hear that? That's a big deal. They just said they're willing to share some of their research that they've been working hard. That's a big plus, I think.
Yeah.
Just so you know though, Murphy keeps yelling at me are you gonna let your kids drink energy drinks? I don't let them do anything. Yes. They're allowed to make decisions, but yeah. Anyways. Okay, now Habib kind of has special circumstances because his sister was our high school assistant. And so anyways, he just kind of comes from a long line of debate. And so Habib is in 5th period. He's LD. Yeah! Yes!
Here's why. First off, you don't have to rely on a teammate, and you don't have to argue with your teammate if your opinions are clear. Secondly, I love LD debate because it's less stressful and the topics are easier to understand for new debaters, especially novice. Also, what you can expect is to do a lot of solo work, a lot of solo research, and only ever talking to other people when you're getting help with contentions or they're giving you research sources. The only downsides of LD is that if you really need help from a teammate, you'll only be able to get help before the tournament or 10 rounds. The real world knowledge that LD debate gives you is that most tournaments you'll ever get into are 1 versus 1, which is exactly what LD debate is. So that's really helpful. And I'll always be in the backup question, waiting to help anyone who needs help with LD debate. So yeah. Also, if you win, you know you won by yourself. You don't need help from anyone. So that's true.
Okay. Okay, I like what he had to say. It's just his video gives me motion sickness because he was pacing back and forth. Okay, then we have, our one extemper, I'm so sorry, but he didn't turn his video in correctly, so I can't show it to you. But we've got a couple oratory. So this is Bridget Smith. She's in 5th period.
Oratory is by far the best debate option. You should do oratory because it's up to you. You get to choose any topic you want. You don't have to spend time researching something that you're like, oh my gosh, if I have to read one more thing about politics and like taxes, I'm literally gonna die. Also, I think the most prepared tournament in oratory, even though all the events you're prepping really hard, in debate you never know what your opponent's gonna say. All you have to do in oratory is work crazy hard when you have class time to get your speech memorized. In oratory, you're the only one out there speaking, and there's not a better feeling in the world than finishing your speech fully memorized, and as you walk back to your seat, everyone's staring at you like, look at that, that was so good.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's very true.
And I will warn you though, oratory can get kind of boring and a little repetitive, but it is 100% worth it if you work really hard and get it memorized. Oratory is really good at helping you with being confident. If you're only here because your parents made you, faking enthusiasm is going to help you become enthusiastic and confident. If you need any help with writing your speech, Mrs. Coates has really good ideas, but I would also be really happy to help you out. Or if you want performance tips, I would be really happy to watch your speech and help you out. I definitely have a few tricks that would help you, so that would help you out for the oratory. As you can see, oratory is by far the best speech or debate event. So take oratory.
So I hope that you're hearing there's a running theme, which I didn't even bribe them with money or candy to say it, but have you been hearing how many of the debate 2 kids are like, I'll help you if you choose this one? Have you been hearing that? Yes or no, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. It's part of the, I don't know, for me, that's motivating. That you get to help the younger generation, and that's normal in debate. The older kids always help the younger kids. Okay, so we've got Chloe in 1st period with oratory. Look how good your hair looks, Chloe. Okay.